Good afternoon, Pokésports, and welcome to another tier builder. In the last tier builder, we looked at all of the normal types. In this tier builder, we're going to look at all of the, of course, grass types. We're going to go down the line, do grass and fire, then water, and then figure it out from there. But here, I decided to just go ahead and make my life a little bit easier. I just smacked all of the NFE Pokemon right there. So don't use any of these Pokemon unless you're very, very adventurous. Cool? Okay, nice. At least you know they exist. But we're going to continue on here with the rest of the grass types in the generation, and we're gonna start off strong here. Venusaur right in S tier. Now Venusaur has walked into this metagame and has completely dominated for just, you know, the few days that it has been out. You can have so many sets with this thing. You can be the fastest Chlorophyll sleep powder user in the game. You can essentially just Dynamax, set up your special attack and your ally special attack with Max Ooze, set up your own special defense with Max Quake. You have access to Max super effective stab, overgrowth. Like, you could do so much with this Pokemon, and it entered this metagame in such a well-defined and strong way to be, you know, the best Pokemon in terms of grass type, the best grass type Pokemon in the metagame. For my opinion, alright? That's my opinion. Maybe you guys have different ones. If you guys have different opinions, that's what the comment section is for. And if you guys want to see and do your own tier list and send it to us on Twitter, I'm going to leave a link to this tier list down below in the description, along with all of the other Pokésports wonderful links. Now, speaking of fast Chlorophyll users, I'm going to stick Vileplume in A tier. Vileplume is super strong. It's super strong because I do believe that, you know, that whole situation with Torkoal Vileplume really did make this Pokemon well versed and really did make people learn about what this Pokemon does and how good it really is. Chlorophyll after you is still the fastest Chlorophyll after you in the game, so that paired next to Torkoal is still very strong. Granted, Torkoal and Vileplume did have their weaknesses. They were weak to things like Tailwind, they were weak to things like Fake Out, but those two as a pair, if those other problems aren't around on the field, can be such a power duo to deal so much damage. And you know, it also is a fast sleep powder user. That's something to keep in mind. It's not as fast as Venusaur, but it is fast under Chlorophyll. Sunflora does the same thing. Sunflora and Vileplume are actually very similar Pokemon. Their stats are all identical except for the special attack and special defense are flip-flopped. So Sunflora has more special defense than Vileplume, and Vileplume will have more special attack. So I guess it just depends on your playstyle. If you like to be more defensive or offensive, completely up to you. Speaking of other very fast mons, we have things like Ludicolo, which I will actually stick up here too. Currently not doing too good because of Laprases everywhere. It is 4 times weak to a freeze dry, so that is something to keep in mind. But all in all, it can still work very well, especially in rain. Does have access to Fake Out, does have access to, you know, Giga Drain, Energy Ball, Scald, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, etc. So it can still be a very strong Pokemon. And it's like a staple to every rain team, right? If you pair this next to a Pelipper, you could just do some serious damage to any team that you go up against. Next, we're going to find ourselves with Shiftry. Shiftry is interesting. I mean, I don't think it's bad personally, especially in a metagame right now where Sun is so prevalent. It can be a very fast Sun Sweeper. I mean, it does have a lot of... It's essentially a mixed attacker. It doesn't have a lot of defenses, does have an incredible amount of weaknesses, but, you know, it does have access to Fake Out. It is very fast and does hit very hard. It gets things like Solar Blade and stuff, so why the heck not? Let's try it out. Not a lot of people try it out, but if you stick a sash on this thing, I'm pretty sure it can do some serious damage. I personally haven't tried it this generation, but, you know, maybe some of you guys are brave enough. But I totally think if I see a Shiftry, the first thing that comes to my brain isn't, oh, this is a bad player. Like, you know, if I saw like a Cherubi, which I'm gonna stick in D. I'm sorry to all you Cherubi fans, I really don't like it. Or a Cherrim, not Cherubi. But yeah, if I see a Shiftry, I'm not like, oh, okay, this guy's a bad player, or he's just trying to have fun, or something like that. I just see like, oh, this guy's trying something new. Shiftry does have a niche and does fill that niche pretty well. Roserade's very interesting. Roserade was kind of your budget Venusaur, right? It doesn't get things like Chlorophyll, so it's not as good as Venusaur, but it does hit as hard as Venusaur, and does get very similar moves to Venusaur. It does get things like Sleep Powder, like Sludge Bomb, like Energy Ball, and has the exact same typing as Venusaur, so I always view that as kind of a budgeted Venusaur, but now that Venusaur is out, you don't really have a reason to use Roserade above Venusaur, sadly. Rest in peace, Roserade. I mean, it's not a bad Pokemon, so I'm not gonna stick it in like D tier, but I do think that it is just worse than Venusaur in almost every situation. Moving on, we have things like Leafeon. I'm gonna stick Leafeon in B tier. Wolfie Glick just recently, or not recently, like a while back, did have success with Leafeon and getting in like first on the ladder in the game in Master Ball tier. So he used the Leafeon to get there. Leafeon, I guess, is a pretty good Pokemon. Does get access to Chlorophyll, does get access to Solar Blade as well. It is a very interesting Dynamax Pokemon because you can use Dig to set up your special defense and just moves in that nature. So I don't think it's bad. It's just situational, and unless you're in that good situation, you are gonna have a little bit of trouble with it. But you know, it's a pretty strong Pokemon. I'd stick it above Shiftry. Rotom Mow. Rotom Mow, a S tier. All Rotoms, I'm not gonna say this, I'm not gonna say all Rotoms, but most Rotoms are really darn good. You'll notice a trend here with my next coming videos with fire and water because they're also very darn good. Rotom electric typing paired with some of these other types are just such a good typing because electric only has one weakness, and that's ground, and with the levitate ability you essentially remove that weakness, so you could be a very strong Pokemon. I mean, Rotom Mow is just very good against things like Gastrodon. Does hit like a truck. You can run it physically defensive, you can run it fast with the Scarf, you can run it offensive with a D-Max, you can run a nasty plot use on it. You could do a lot of things with that Pokemon. It's super versatile. It doesn't have a lot of common, it has weaknesses, but it is immune to ground, which is really nice, especially against Excadrill T-Tar, because you don't care about either one of those Pokemon at all. So I'm going to stick it right here in the S tier. Maybe it's a little bit outclassed now that Venusaur is around and not a lot of people are using it, but it definitely does still see use, and is definitely still a very useful Pokemon to have. I've been avoiding Abomasnow because I don't really want to be mean to my boy Abomasnow, but I'm sticking it in C tier. It's not as bad as a Cherrim. It is one of the few snow setters or hail setters in the game, but now that we have Ninetales, there's really no use for Abomasnow, which is sad. I loved Abomasnow back in the day. I love Focus Sash Blizzard Abomasnow, but it has a lacking speed. It has very bad typing because it's weak to like everything. It does hit hard, and I really love things like Mega Abomasnow, especially for Trick Room teams, but sadly it just doesn't find a place in this metagame, I don't think, especially with all the Charizards going around with solar power right now. It's very, very risky to just waltz in with an Abomasnow and hope for the best. That's just my thought process behind Abomasnow. Kind of sad. I love that Pokemon as a design, but you know what? C tier, boy. Whimsicott. Okay, I'd be stupid not to put Whimsicott in S tier. It's a prankster Tailwind. It's a prankster Charm. It's a prankster Fake Tears. It's a prankster Encore. It's a prankster Taunt. It's annoying as darn heck. Like, it's so annoying. It is weak to everything. Like, it does have a bad typing with Fairy Grass. But the thing is, you could just stick a sash on it and be like one of the best supportive mons in the game. There's no denying that. Whimsicott is definitely one of the best supportive mons in the game. Can do things like beat up, can do things like fling. It's so versatile, especially depending on the Pokemon you pair it next to. I mean, you don't even have to have a strategy behind it. You just go for Tailwind, and guess what? You just have a very good turn. But you know what? Especially with dynamic speed change, I think what made this Pokemon very good this generation is the dynamic speed change. Because of that dynamic speed change, you're essentially able to get one more turn out of Tailwind, which is something that you weren't technically able to do before. So just that change in general did make this Pokemon very strong, and I think, you know, it's still one of the best Pokemon. The usage did go down a little bit in comparison to the beginning of the metagame. In the beginning of the metagame, it was like everywhere. Usage is down a bit, but it's still like, you know, top 10. It's still very used, very strong. Maractus, D tier. Moving on. Not to be mean to my boy Maractus. I know you get things like Storm Drain and stuff, but let's be honest, okay? I mean, if it makes you feel better, we'll put a couple friends with Maractus down here. Let's put Shiinotic right there. I mean, maybe not, right? Shiinotic can do something. I've seen Shiinotic with Prankster Meowstic doing something with Skill Swap and Skill Swapping Prankster onto Shiinotic, so now you get Prankster Spores, but that takes setup. It takes setup, and then, yeah, you'll get one Prankster Spore off before you just drop dead. So, no, you know what? I'm going to keep Shiinotic there. I'm looking at the other Pokemon we have down here. We got a couple of powerhouses, so I'm going to keep Shiinotic here. If you guys want to try Shiinotic, by all means, go for it. Next, we have Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn's not seeing a lot of play this meta. But I believe it's not seeing a lot of play because the timer is so low. I think Ferrothorn as a stall Pokemon has a place to timer stall, but you can stall it out also. If a Ferrothorn is left out in the field, you can just take very long to use your moves, and then eventually you will beat a Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn really has to rely on just recovering with Leech Seed and clicking Protect. But on top of that, it does get a lot of access to newer moves in the game, like Body Press with its high defenses. You can do things like Power Whip, has things like Iron Head. You can stick an Assault Vest on this, go to town. I think the Ferrothorn definitely has a niche, and I think it's one of those very slow Pokemon that you can stick on any team. Grass and Steel is just a very good typing in general, with 4 times weakness to Fire and a 2 times weakness to Fighting. But oh no, I think Ferrothorn's a great Pokemon. You guys can fight me on that. It's not very used in this meta, but I used it earlier on, and I loved that thing to death. Maybe I'll try it again. I honestly have nothing against that Pokemon. Just Iron Barbs, Iron Barbara in general is just very strong ability as well. And with leftovers, you can sit there and just be a heal bot. Moving on, we have Trevenant. Trevenant is interesting. It's a good Trick Room setter. Very good ability in Harvest. So I'm going to stick it in B tier. Yeah, I'm going to stick it in B tier. I think B tier is where it's most appropriate. It does still hit very hard. It's an interesting typing in Grass and Ghost. Not a lot of Pokemon have that typing. Actually, that's a lie. The next 2 Pokemon I'm going to do have that typing. But, you know, it's a very strong typing. Very good Trick Room setter. Harvest plus Citrus Berry, or Harvest plus, you know, Lumberry if you're going for an offensive one. It's very interesting also. So I totally think that Pokemon can be used very well in its own niche. Speaking of Pokemon used well in its own niche, Oceania Internationals. We had Gourgeist do very well. Now Gourgeist has access to I had a whole damn video on Gourgeist. If you guys really want in-depth Gourgeist information, by all means check that out. But yeah, Gourgeist is very niche. It does have things like Trick Room. Well, yeah, it does have Trick Room. It also has things like Ally Switch, has things like, what is it, Trick or Treat, that does turn your Pokemon into a Ghost typing, or whatever Pokemon you target into a Ghost typing, so you can essentially make your own, like, adjacent fighting weak Pokemon just immune to fighting in general, like a Tyranitar, like an Excadrill. So that's just something to keep in mind. You could take Pokemon that you are against that you don't have any stab for, turn them into a Ghost type, then go for something like Phantom Force, and now you have a stab super effective move that you can use against them to your advantage. Now, I guess B tier is just the tier for Grass Ghost. Okay, we have Decidueye. Decidueye is an interesting one. I expect it to be better than it once was, because it's now in a metagame that tends to fit slower Pokemon. It has things like Long Reach, which is like, I guess is cool. I mean, the hidden ability is not quite there, but the special attack and the physical attack are really there. Spirit Shackle is a very cool move. You just stop Pokemon from leaving in general, and you know, you do super effective stab on it, so that's something to keep in mind. I think it'll be a lot more useful than it was in past generations. I haven't had the chance to use it, but if I was gonna use it, I would probably Life Orb it, and I would probably demax it. Next we have Serena. Serena's A tier, dude. Serena's so good. Like Queenly Majesty, you can't priority moves while this Pokemon's on the field, and things like High Jump Kick to hit Tyranitars and Excadrills, things like a physical grass moves. There's not a lot of physical grass Pokemon in the game, so you know what? It's nice when you have one. I'd say Serena's definitely high usage. A lot of people have used it very successfully on their teams. It is kind of slow, but it doesn't go down easily also, which is nice to have. Bulky grass types are really good because, you know, grass is a very, very weak typing in terms of defenses, because it is weak to a lot of Pokemon. So I'm gonna stick Serena right up here. I think Serena really has a place in this metagame, and maybe it's just a lot of people didn't find out about it or don't really know of it. Silvally, I don't know. Silvally's gonna be on every single tier list, huh? I'm just realizing that now. Silvally's gonna be in every single tier list. I don't see Silvally Grass doing much. I'm gonna stick it here with Abomasnow. I mean, if you're gonna run Silvally, you probably should run another ability, another typing, I guess. Maybe a Silvally Electric, I think, is really good, especially in a tier where, in a game where not a lot of electric types are very good, except for the Rotoms. God, I can't wait to go down that list. Next, we have Dhelmise, another grass ghost. I'm also going to stick it in the B tier. I'm not doing that for the meme. I swear, I think it belongs here. Dhelmise has access to Anchor Shot, which essentially gives it 3 stabs with Steelworker. It does have access to Power Whip, does have access to Liquidation now. So it can take care of a lot of its weaknesses. And I think it's a pretty strong Pokemon. It has like base 130 or base, yeah, I think like really high attack. And it can work very well in Trick Room. Especially if you give it an Iron Ball, then you're outspeeding Rhyperior in Trick Room. And you could probably one-shot it. I mean, you definitely can one-shot it with a Grass type move. So keep your eyes out on Dhelmise. It was used in competitions early on, but you know, it kind of fell off. But I think it could still be useful. Rillaboom. Rillaboom, oh Rillaboom, where do I put you? This is a hard one. I'm gonna say B tier. And by putting in B tier, I'm gonna move Shiftry down to C tier. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Because I do think Rillaboom is better than Shiftry, and now that I'm looking at the rest of B tier, I think Shiftry is weaker than the rest of B tier. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Rillaboom is one of the few Pokemon that do have access to knockoff this generation. It's also one of the few Pokemon that has Fake Out in this generation. So with Fake Out, Earthquake, etc., it can definitely do some damage, especially when its hidden ability comes out. Once Grassy Surge comes out, then you're going to have teams that do play with Grassy Surge. Sadly, since it's not out right now, you don't really have that Grassy Surge, Grassy Seed, you know, mechanic, and you can't really go for Grassy Surge empowered wood hammers yet with Rillaboom. But once that exists, I do believe Rillaboom will move up to A tier, maybe not S tier, but I will definitely try it out because I think that'll be super fun. So that's just something to keep your eye out for. Eldegoss, hello Eldegoss. Situational, but I think C tier because it's not as bad as Cherrim or Maractus. Condown's interesting. It lowers the speed of everything on the field. If you pair it next to a Malamar, you can do very well because it'll actually raise the Malamar's speed while lowering everybody else's speed. So that's super interesting. But like I said, very situational. Does require kind of a good place in order for it to work. So I'm gonna stick it in C tier. Moving on, we have Flapple and Appletun. Now this is really funny because Appletun, I will say, Appleton's essentially a budget. It's a budget Ferrothorn, right? It's a Ferrothorn with a worse typing and I think worse moves. But I'm gonna stick Appletun in C tier, but I'm gonna stick Gmax Appletun in B tier. Actually, no, I'll stick that in C tier too. Right next to my boy here. Gmax Appleton's okay. I think it's better than Gmax Flapple, which belongs in D tier, because I don't really see a point to lowering the evasiveness of your enemies if most moves are 100% accurate anyway, and while you're D-Max, your moves are 100% accurate. But that's just my thought process behind it. I don't see too much point for it. But aromatherapy, just a free aromatherapy, is kind of nice. You can't really complain about it too much. And I guess that leaves us with our last, which is Flapple. Which I think is pretty darn good, to be honest. Especially if you're going to D-Max it. I could see Flapple being a very strong Pokemon. If you D-Max it, then you get the Hustle for free. It is one of the strongest Hustle users in the game. Its speed is lacking. Its type is trash. But you know what? It can definitely deal a lot of damage. And with that said, we have our Grass type tier list. I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys didn't enjoy, then I don't know, tell me about it in the comment section. If you guys did enjoy and you guys have your own opinions, then by all means, let me know in the comment section. Also, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below on our road to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Kevin. This is Pokésports. Make sure to check out our podcast every Wednesday and Monday, and check out our Patreon for more perks. Have a great night, and peace out.